Hello everyone, this is Dr. Raha. I am recording an unofficial helper video for my internet programming textbook. Since English is not my first language, in fact, it's my fourth, you may notice some mistakes in my English, but our brain are great at understanding meaning even when the words are not perfect. And I know you are smart more than enough to understand what I say. So I would rather focus on the content than spend time recording to correct every mistakes. This way I can save times and hopefully make it easier for you to understand the textbook. Okay, let's start. In this course, we are going to use Visual Studio Code. This is the environment of the Visual Studio Code to create a new project. For the beginning, we go to the File menu and then choose Open Folder. And then we select the folder where we want to store our project's files and assets. Okay, here I create a new folder, let's say M1, and then I select it. Now Visual Studio opens the folder and shows its content in the Explorer view. It may prompt you and asking you some questions about do you trust the authors of this project or this folder, this program. You will say yes, I checked the checkbox to not show it again. Okay, this is the activity bar. From here, you have access to Explorer view, which shows the content of your folder or project. You can search among the project. This is for version controlling, and it provides GitHub connectivity for you. This is for debugging some project, and this is for you to manage extensions. Visual Studio is a very powerful integrated development environment. Is a powerful IDE, and it allows you to install many extensions. There are lots of useful extensions. One of them that we are going to use for the first modules is Live Preview. So you type Live Preview here, this one, and then by pressing the install button, you will install this extension. Then we go back to the Explorer view. This part is called Editor Area, which allows you to edit a file. Let me close this one. Now we are going to create our first web page. We are starting with HTML page. So to do that, we can come to menu, and from the menu we can choose new file, or much easier way is to press just this icon in the Explorer view. When you do that, it asks you to enter the name of the file. So we say first, let's say index.html. All HTML files must have HTML extension at the end. Okay, if you do that, Visual Studio opens the file in the editor area and you can start adding your code. We start with typing an exclamation mark. If you do that, Visual Studio pops up a menu for you. And from this pop-up, we choose the first one. If you do that, Visual Studio adds a template of an HTML file. We will use this template in all our HTML files. Okay, let's have a look to this template. In the first line, it says less than character, exclamation mark, doc type, space, HTML greater than sign. This is a directive command. This tells browsers that this code must be treated as an HTML5 document. HTML5 is the latest version of HTML standard. Okay, so this is a mandatory directive that we always put at the first line. After that, we put every other thing. Actually, after that, we define an HTML element. You can look at an HTML file and a web page as a document. A document consisting of some elements. Each element may have some other elements, and so on and so forth. Here, we always define an HTML element to define a web page. What is an element? An element consists of an opening tag, some content, and a closing tag. This is another element. This is the opening tag of the element. This is the closing tag of the element. And this is the content of the element. This is another element. This is the opening tag. This is the closing tag of the element. And it has no content. This is another element. This is the opening tag. This is the closing tag. And this is the content. The first phrase in the opening tag shows the element type. Here the element type is title. In this case, the element type is body. And in this case, the element type is HTML. In the opening tag, in addition to the element type, we can have some pairs of attribute values. Each element have some attributes, and attributes have default values. By changing these default values, you can adjust the element and change its behavior, its default behavior. Here, we use lang attribute of the HTML element. The lang attribute of the HTML element actually specifies the language that we are going to use for text that will be shown to users. Actually, this helps search engines and assistive tools to categorize and present our content to users in a better and more efficient way. EN stands for English. FA stands for example, French. AR stands for Arabic, something like that. We will use EN. After defining an HTML element, we define two elements in the content section of the HTML element. A head element and a body element. the head element contains the header of the page. It works like a configuration section of your page. Whatever is related to the configuration of your page must be defined in the head section, in the head element. In the body element, you define whatever you want to show to your users in your web page. Okay. Let's have a look to the content of the head element. In the head element, we have a meta element. We see that the meta element doesn't have any closing tag. Why? Because by nature, it cannot have any content. So you will see some elements that by nature cannot have any content. These kind of elements will have only the opening tag section, not the content section, not any closing section, closing tag. Okay, using metadata element, we can define some configuration of our web page. Here we say that the character set of this file is UTF-8. UTF-8 is a standard for encoding characters, and it covers most modern languages. For now, we don't talk about this part. It's about responsive design. We will see that later. And this element, title element, defines the title of your web page. This title will be shown in the tab section of your browsers. Your browser. Yeah. Okay. Since we have installed Live Preview extension, we can right-click on the name of a file, an HTML file, and from the pop-up menu, we can select Show Preview to see the live preview of our page. If you don't see this option in this menu, that means you haven't installed Live Preview extension. So go and install Live Preview extension and come back. If I click on this, I can see the preview of my code inside the Visual Studio Code. Okay, so far we haven't put anything in the body section, so we just see a white page, an empty white page. And if you see in the top of this simulator, we see the title of the page is document. You can change this, my website, and you see that the title is changed. Okay, let's start with h1 tag. h1 tag is used to define the most important header in your web page. Let's say Augusta University. Okay. After this, I am going to create a horizontal line. To create a horizontal line, you can use an HR element. You see that it doesn't have any content and closing tag because it's a void element. It cannot have any content. A line cannot have any content like this. Okay. Now, I am going to add an H2 element. H2 elements are used to define second most important headers in your web page. We have H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6 elements. I haven't seen anyone use H6 elements. but there are such elements. Let's say computer and cyber sciences. Okay. Then you may want to define some paragraph. To define a paragraph, we use p elements. Okay, let me use ChatGPT. Okay, as you see, you can use AI to create contents. I don't care about that, but you cannot use AI to create any code. So, okay, I copy this code in my page. You see that no matter how you format the text, browsers by default treat them like all your texts are after each other. All words are after each other. No matter how many space if you put between two words, or how many new line, how many empty line you put between two words, browsers will show them after each other, and they will consider only one white space. It's a good thing, actually. It allows us to format our text as we want and change the representation by using some tags and changing their properties. You will see that how we can do that. Now let me put this first paragraph in a p element. And the second paragraph in another p element. Okay, for some elements that have long content, we usually put an opening tag in one line and put the closing tag of the element on another empty line and put the content in between. But for the long text like this, we should split the content into several lines. To have better idea what we are going to do. Okay, Visual Studio have some tools to auto format the content. On Windows, we can press Alt-Shift-F. So it automatically breaks long lines into several lines. That's fine. Now we have a better view of our content. And as you see, browsers now automatically handles the text into 3 paragraphs. Why? Because we have 3 p elements. That means it must be presented into 3 paragraphs. Okay. In HTML, we have some structural elements. Structural elements helps us to organize our content into some meaningful sections. We have header element, which is supposed to wrap whatever we want to show as the header of our page. So let me shift this to the header section. So we don't need this. We may have a menu section. To define a menu, we use nav tag, nav element. Some people put nav after the header section, and some people put it inside the header section. They say that, okay, this is part of the header. But I usually put it after the header section. Another structural element is main element. By using a main element, actually you define a section which is supposed to contain the stuff, the main content of the page. Each page has some main content which change from one page to another. Headers are usually the same in different pages. Menus are usually the same in different pages, but the content changed from a page to another page. So we put those kind of contents in a main element. As you see, I indent the content of an element to help myself actually, and if I work for a company, to help my colleagues to understand my code better. Let me reduce the size of this part. Also, each page may have a footer section. We have a footer element to specify the footer of your page. Let's say something. Okay. Also, if you want to split your code into more sections, actually we have section element. So let's put, for example, this school in a section, and then assume we want to have another section for say medical school. So as you see, semantically these can be split into two sections: the computer and cyber science section and the medical school section. We will deal with the presentation of our content with CSS. We can change the presentation in our HTML code, but we will not do this because it's not professional. And in later module, we will talk about CSS, and you can style your web page in a much better and professional way. Okay, let's add a menu to our page. In the menu, we usually implement a menu of a website with a list of hyperlinks. But let's start with a simple menu. We define an option by a hyperlink. So to create a hyperlink, we need an A element. Let's say home. This is the title of the link, you see. And in the href, you need to define the address of the link, the destination of the link. Let's say index.html. Let's add another hyperlink to about.html. Let's say its title is about, and let's add another HTML main website. Here I want to have a link which navigates the user to the main website of the Augusta University. So here you can use absolute address of the destination. This is relative address, which means the address will be calculated based on the current location of this file. This is absolute address, which means no matter where the file is, user will be redirected exactly to this address. Okay. Since this is an external link, we usually add target attribute. We change the target attribute and set it to underline blank. In this way, when a user clicks on this link, the destination address will be opened in a new tab. But here, without the target equal underline blank, the destination address, the destination page will be replaced by the current page. Okay. Now let's define about the HTML page. If I click on this, it says file not found because we haven't created such things in our folder. Let's create it. Now about.html. Okay. A good practice is to repeat the same structure to have the same structure in all our web pages. So we copy this part. Then we close this. Okay. Oh, we had a footer section as well. Let me copy it. Okay, in the main, for example, say P contact me at now by having this, we could implement a simple website. Whenever I click on one of these links, actually the content of the page is replaced by a new page. But since all my pages have the same structure, I only notice the change in the main section. So it gives users a good feeling. And if I click on this, the user will be redirected to augusta.edu web page like this. Okay, now let's see how we can create a list. Assume we want to create a list of some states. Let me use this page. Okay, to create a list, we use UL or OL tag. UL for unordered list and OL for ordered list. Let's start with UL. Okay, UL defines a list element. To define the items of the list, we use li tags. Each li element defines one item in the list. Say state 1. Let me copy paste this. State 2, 3, 4. Now I have ordered list of 4 items, unordered list. If I change UL to OL, now I will have ordered list. You see numbered list, ordered list, or numbered list. Let's assume we want to define the list of cities of each state. If you want to do that, in the content section of each item, you need to define another list. Let me change this to UL. So you put the text if you want, then you define another list. City 1, City 2, City 3. Now we have a nested list where each item of the main list may have a sub list. If you want to define a sublist for the second item, we do the same thing. Each sublist may have another sublist. So, for example, here, UL, LI, County 1, County 2, County 3. See? Now we could create a nested list. Of course, this UL can be OL. Actually, in the content section of each LI, you can put whatever you want, including image, text, or another list. Okay, and special characters. Another topic that I want to mention here is how to use special characters. Special characters are characters that have either a specific meaning for HTML, or we cannot show them, we cannot type them because there are no such symbols on our keyboard. Okay, assume I want to say if A less than B, then do something. But in the text, I see if A and I cannot see the rest. Why? Because less than sign character has a specific meaning. It shows the beginning of an opening or closing tag. So how can I say to a browser that this is not a part of a tag? This is something that I want to show it. In this case, we use a special format for those kind of characters. In this special format, we need to type an ampersand character, then type a code or a symbol for that specific character or symbol, for example, LT for less than, and then put a semicolon. So as you said, we start with the ampersand, then a code, and then a symbol. Now we see that in the presentation, instead of this code, a less than character is shown for the users. Similarly here, we have a code to show a copyright symbol on the screen. We have different codes you can find in the textbook. You can find the list of some of those in the textbook or on the internet. That's it for the first module.